Hi everyone. Let's have a look at the concept on dice and then coins. What happens when dice is rolled or are rolled? Because dice is plural. And when we roll a single one, it is called a die. So, when a single die is rolled, what happens? Now, what's your sample space when a single dice is rolled? When a single die is rolled, you can get the minimum value as 1 or the maximum as 6. So, you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, nothing besides that. So, that becomes your sample space, and we know that the number of elements of the sample space becomes 6. Now, so there were 6 different things happening, and what is the probability of each of them happening? So, what is the probability of me getting a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or so on up till 6? Well, in this case, because each of them has equal chances, the probability of getting a 1 is also 1 by 6, for 2 also is 1 by 6, and so on. And you will always notice that if you have listed all the probabilities and if you add them, the total will always be equal to 1. So in this case, say a 1 by 6 plus 1 by 6 plus 1 by 6, 6 times will have to give you a total of 1. So this becomes your sample space and understanding the probability. Now, what kind of question can be asked on a single dice? So I can be asked, what is the probability of getting an even number? Now, if I want an even number, which means I'm looking at a 2, 4 or a 6, because it's a single throw, right? So we can want a 2 or a 4 or a 6. Now there are 3 possibilities and the probability of each of them is 1 by 6. So answer will be 1 by 6 plus 1 by 6 plus 1 by 6, that is 3 by 6. And what is the probability of a prime number? Now in this case, prime numbers were 2, 3 and 5. So the probability of getting a prime number will also be 3 by 6. Let's go ahead and look at what will happen when 2 dice are rolled. When 2 dice are rolled, your sample space completely changes. Now in this case, your sample space could be what? Which means, suppose, let's call our dice as one is a red dice and one is a blue dice. So if I roll them, what are the different possibilities I could have? I could get a 1 on both of them, or I could get a 1, 2, or a 1, 3, and so on, till where? So I can get a 1 on the red dice, 1 on the blue dice, red 1, blue 2, and so on. And I can get all the different possibilities. I could get 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, so on up till 6, 6. So if you actually write all these possibilities, you will realize that your sample space is 36. That means there are 36 possibilities in all. Now, let's understand very importantly what questions are asked when normally 2 dice are rolled. So normally when 2 dice are rolled, the question asked is always around what is the total of the values seen on the uppermost faces. That means if you threw the red dice or you rolled the red dice and the blue dice. So what is the total of the values on the upper 2 dice? Now, you will notice that when you throw 2 dice, the minimum total you can get is always 2. You can't get anything below 2. And the maximum total you can get is 12. So hence probability of 2 to 12 is what you should know. Let's learn at a very, very interesting method to do that. And once you know this method, it will be very easy for you to remember this in the exam. Now think logically. What is the chance of getting 2? There's only one way you can get a 2. 1, 1. So in all that 36 possibilities, there's only one way in which you can get a total of 2. And hence the probability of getting a 2 is 1 by 36. But if you notice, the probability of getting a 12 is also 1 by 36, because 12 can come only as 6, 6. So hence I will say the probability of getting a 2 and the probability of getting a 12 is both 1 by 36. Similarly, if I look at probability of getting a 3, how many ways can you get a 3 in? So 3 you can get as 1, 2 or 2, 1, which means the chance of getting a 3 is 2 by 36. Similarly, the chance of getting 11 is also 2 by 36, because it can come in only 2 ways, 5, 6 and 6, 5. So the probability of getting 3 and 11 both is 2 by 36. Similarly, for 4 and 10, the probability will become 3 by 36. For 5 and 9, it will become 4 by 36. And for 6 and 8, it will become 5 by 36. And for 7, it will be 6 by 36. So if you remember this whole thing, the way it is coming, it will be very easy to do questions with 2 dice, right? And as taught earlier, if you had totaled all of them, that is if you added all of them, 1 by 36 plus 2 by 36, again up till 1 by 36, the answer will become 36 by 36, which is 1. So that becomes your whole probability distribution of 2 dice. Now let's see what kind of question can be asked. Suppose if I was asked a question, what is the probability that the sum of the two numbers on the uppermost face is less than or equal to 10. Now, when I say less than or equal to 10, what all am I allowed? I'm allowed a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, you can't go below 2, right? So you allowed everything from 10 to 2. So you can actually add up all of them, say a 1 by 36 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 up till again plus 3 by 36. Or you can be a little bit smarter. We already knew that the total of all this was 1. So you can use the complement method. What is that you don't want? You don't want only 11 and 12, and you can easily see the total of 11 and 12 is 3 by 36. So hence the probability of the sum less than or equal to 10 will be 1 minus 3 by 36, which is 33 by 36. That will be 11 by 12. Continuing this concept further, we are going to take up coins. When we come to coin is tossed, again we're going to take 3 examples. When a single coin is tossed, or 2 coins are tossed, or 3 coins are tossed, and we're going to understand the whole sample space. Now, when we talk about a single coin, now when a single coin is tossed, you know there are only 2 things which can happen. That's very simple. You can get a head or you can get a tails. You can't get anything else, right? So hence the sample space is only head or tails, and the number of elements in the sample space is 2. When 2 coins are tossed, what will happen? The sample space will become, you can get a heads, you can get a heads, tails, you can get a tails, heads, or a tail, and the number of elements in the sample space is 4. What happens in case of 3 coins are tossed? What I'm going to do is I'm not going to read out all the possibilities. You can have a look on the screen. So you can have heads, and so on. You can have in all 8 possibilities. Now, normally I've noticed when I tell the students to do these 8 possibilities, they always miss out one or the other. So heads, tails, then head, tail, head, and so on. It's a little bit confusing. So there's a very simple way of actually writing it and trying to recollect. So what happens is, if you had started it column wise, I know you're supposed to get one link as heads, but let's think of it as a column. So if I wrote my first column, I know there are totally 8 values. I should know that first. And how can you know that also? So if you notice, then when there was 1 coin, the answer was 2 raised to 1, 2. When there were 2 coins, the answer was 2 raised to 2, 4. When there were 3 coins, it was 2 raised to 3, 8. So you know already beforehand that there are 8 choices. Now how to list these 8 choices down? So if I look at it writing column wise, what I would have done, I would have first written the 4 heads. So I would have written a head, and below that I would have just written the 4 tails. So that just gives me my first column. Then in the second column, I would have put it as 2 heads, 2 tails, 2 heads, 2 tails. And the last column, I would have started with head, tail, head, tail, head, tail. When you do this method, you really don't have to worry about how many choices are there. Have you got them correct and all? You will always get them correct. So let's understand the simple way of doing it. Because there were 8 choices, what we did was we put 4 heads, 4 tails in the first column. Then 2 heads, 2 tails, 2 heads, 2 tails, and so on. And the last column, 1 head, 1 tail, 1 head, 1 tail. And that's the best way. Questions now around this can be in any format. Suppose in 3 coins, if I asked you, what is the probability of getting exactly 2 heads? So you just have to go and count how many exactly 2 heads are there. So there's a case of head, tail, head, and tail, head. So there are 3 cases in which there are exactly 2 heads, and the answer therefore would become 3 by 8. So these are the most common things asked in probability. Coins, dice are very, very important for your exams.